Welcome back. We're here. We're ready to talk some cyberpunk. No, sorry, not cyberpunk Edge Runners. We're talking some BubbleGum Crisis.
BubbleGum Crisis, the most like innocuous, girly name for a show that was pretty action-packed.
We were supposed to watch BubbleGum Crisis.
Jay,
yes.
What did you do?
I watched a different. I think I watched the wrong show.
What did you watch?
I watched Psychono.
Why
So
would you do that?
you guys review BubbleGum Crisis, and I'll just chime in with how I thought about the other show.
If this is not a bit, I will murder you.
No, this is absolutely a bit.
Oh, thank goodness.
Good.
Jay's bits are undefeated.
Mike, you don't need to tell the viewers about my bits.
Your little bit, your big bits. Anyway, Cole, tell us about this BubbleGum
No, you can't talk
Crisis.
about that show anymore, Cole.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, BubbleGum Crisis is a cyberpunk anime. Like I said, it's the most girly, innocuous sounding name for a fairly action-packed show. Yeah, so I guess we should just talk about how we usually review things. So we talk about the OP, the voice acting, and the sound, the visuals, and our general spoiler-free thoughts. So you can listen up to our spoiler warning. We do give you a major warning before we go into spoilers, where we'll talk about the plot and the world building and the characters and ending thoughts. And of course, then we'll rate the anime on our patented Annie Pro rating scale. Protagonist being the best of the best, antagonist being the worst of the worst.
Just like me.
So, yes, let's get into our review where we will talk about the OP and the ED. Of course, each episode of this OVA had a different OP and a different ED. Let me tell you, though, all of the OPs were fire.
Oh, yeah. I think the whole soundtrack was fire, honestly.
This soundtrack was awesome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I just, oh, hold on. There's a few housekeeping things that we have to do.
Yeah.
First, I need to guess that
Jay
enjoyed it, reluctantly enjoyed it because he didn't know how to feel about like watching a mech show, but he had a good time. Mike, I think it was a bit slow at the beginning, but towards the end of the show, it started getting a bit more tolerable for him. But he did like the mech designs and the character designs, I think.
Okay.
Jay, what do you think we thought?
I think Cole loved it from every aspect. Loved the retro, loved the cyberpunk, loved the music, loved the characters, loved it all. Maybe he thought like he wished there was more of a plot to it, but aside from that, he liked it. Mike, I think he thought it was a bit slow, but he started to vibe with it for a bit. He vibed with it.
Always vibing, man. I'm all about them vibes.
Yeah.
I think Cole, it's kind of similar to what Jay said. I think he just is an absolute sucker for anything with a cyberpunk tag, and he probably liked it before he even watched it, and probably also liked it after he watched it too. And then Jay, I think probably kind of like what Cole said. I think maybe it didn't start off great for him, but I think after it kind of grew on him a little bit, he kind of warmed up to a little bit, and maybe like liked some of the designs and stuff like that, and probably was missing that romance aspect to it, if I had to guess. That's just my kind of. Yeah, this is a hard one to judge what the other people were going to think about, I think.
Yeah.
It's a rough one.
It's a little bit difficult. Like, Cole, I know, like, he loves cyberpunk, so that's easy, but, like, Mike, it was kind of like, I'm not sure.
It's a hard recommendation to people for that reason. Like, it's hard to know if someone's going to like this show or not.
Yeah. It's kind of it's definitely a genre piece.
Yeah,
for sure.
like
you have to like this kind of stuff.
Like spoilers for my spoiler-free recommendations, but I was literally going to say if you're gonna like this show if you like classic 80s stuff or like cyberpunk stuff. Honestly, like even if you like stuff like Akira, you check it out.
Yeah, no, even
and-
from like a visual
yeah,
aspect of it.
yeah.
But another question that I want to ask is, Mike, we need to know,
You need to
sub
know.
or dub?
Again, as per usual, I did both to figure out which one I liked.
Yeah.
This one I went sub. Firm sub on this one because, and it's not for the reason you'd expect, actually. The voice acting is actually not that bad a lot of the time in this one. It is old, so there's definitely some like moments
Jank.
where it is janky and like it's an old dub, so it's not amazing, but it's actually surprisingly serviceable, I'd say. But
Okay.
what actually made me stick with the sub for this one was like for some reason the mix was completely different because they re-recorded a lot of the songs for this one, and like the production on the sub was way better. So like that was
Gotcha.
like when there'd be like points where and kind of this is getting into the sound and stuff like that, but there'd be points where like the characters would be talking on the street, and in the dub you just have like the characters talking with like some kind of semi-generic background noise, and then if you switch over to the sub it would be like the characters talking and you'd hear cars going by and there'd be like a guy in the background talking. It just was way more detailed than like actually, I don't know, just
It
something
felt
about
like
it
the
was
production was higher.
there's just more effort put into it, I think.
Yeah.
For sure. Like I said before, I kind of sidetracked us. The OPs in the show were great. They were just like music videos.
Yeah.
They were so fun. What was do you guys remember?
It's the first
like,
one.
what do you think the best one was?
I like the first one as well.
The first one for sure.
I like the last one.
The last one was good too. With what's her name basically going around. It's like a very like slice of life-y one. Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah.
Like Nene?
Yeah.
I just like that one too. It felt like it was like the last one. Like it felt like all of the girls were singing in it, and it was I don't know, it just felt like the penultimate
It's weird because
OP.
like I know that we're kind of going into like soundtrack territory, but like it's weird that like that cyberpunk edge and like that aesthetic mixed really well with like the singing and like the kind like idol. I don't want to say like idol, but like
idol-ish.
It kind of had like a touch of it, but yeah.
I wasn't expecting that in this show. Like I knew it was cyberpunk. I wasn't really expecting the music to kind of just be like awesome 80s pop rock.
It like went right in with it, and it was great.
Do you guys want to know?
Personally, I think that the soundtrack was like my favorite thing about this show.
I would agree with that. And do you know why it was so good?
Why?
Because all these songs are directly plagiarized from like hit Japanese songs at the time.
Awesome.
I watched a YouTube video of it where it was like comparing all of this, like the OPs and EDs of this like show that are just bangers, as you guys said. And it's like just playing that song, and then it'll play like another song that was like on the charts at the time, and it's like legitimately they just changed it slightly and said that'll do.
That'll do.
So that's why.
Every time a song would come on, I'd be like, bobbing my head, like,
I could picture you, Cole.
Yeah,
I can picture you sitting in your living room watching this show and like stopping it and then turning up the volume and getting your brother and being like, "Listen to this," and then you'd play it, and then
no, it was.
I could
see
see that.
Back to the Future. Listen to this.
Yeah, kind of regarding the sound, but I like that the band name is called Pris and the Replicants. That is straight out of Blade Runner, because the androids Pris is one of the characters in Blade Runner, and the androids in Blade Runners are called replicants. So it's literally right from Blade Runner. And honestly, it's funny that you mentioned that thing about plagiarizing the songs. The theme in the show, like the soundtrack that wasn't like an awesome 80s rock song, was basically just the Blade Runner theme. And I'll try to edit in, if I can find the two, like the Blade Runner theme and then like the theme from the show. It's basically the exact same song, except one note at the end is different or something.
I think there's a ton of things in this show that they like legitimately, it's really good because they took like the best parts of a bunch of other stuff and just slapped them into this show. There's a lot of things that are like that in this one. And actually like part of kind of getting into like the plot and stuff like that, part of this show actually is that the studio folded. It was supposed to be 13 episodes, and the studio folded because they got sued and stuff like that. There's got a bunch of legal troubles. So I wonder what
you kind of want to come at it and be like, oh, they're just like, it's a love letter to like the cyberpunk culture, but really they're just probably a little plagiarisy and
I
and
usually
a little sleazy.
I tend to go on the side of like, you know what? They're just inspired by it. There's nothing really that original or new or whatever. But no, they definitely just ripped them off.
Look, if it's close enough, if it's close enough, you can kind of be like, no, this isn't inspired by. It's just it is it.
Yeah, but it's fun. I really did have a fun time with this. Yeah.
And you dropped a cool fact for me, Cole, too, about the re-recording of all the songs for the dub.
Yes, the dub re-recorded all of the music in addition to the songs. And I noticed that because I did try to listen to the dub for it, because I figured, you know what, it's an OVA, there's only 8 episodes, they probably did the dub decently. And, like, they re-recorded the songs, which, great for them, but, like, as soon as I started it, and the music started playing, I'm like, oh, there's something about, like, the quality of it, like, it doesn't sound...
The mix was bad or something. Yeah.
It didn't sound bad, per se, but it did sound newer.
Yeah.
It didn't have that same, like didn't
aesthetic?
sound like it was recorded on tape or something. Like there was just something about it.
I think the dub might have been done in the 90s. I think that might be why.
Yeah. The dub I could tell was just a bit newer. And but I mean, hey, they did the songs, which is, it goes to show that they did put money into the dub.
Yeah. And like I said, this is a pre-Cowboy Bebop dub. So by those standards, this is like a pretty good dub, actually. For the time, I could see why this was like a lot of people's gateway or like a nostalgic anime, because like for a dubbed anime that came out in the 80s, this is pretty good. Yeah.
Visuals, though, one thing I will say regarding the visuals is there was a noticeable jump in quality on episode 4. Did you guys pick up on it?
Yes,
I did pick up on that.
Yeah. Like episodes 1 through 4 were like kind of dark and it was hard to follow the action. And then I could tell, like, right at the start of episode 5, I don't remember if it was 4 or 5, all of a sudden it was like, holy, like it looks
a lot better.
So
episode 5, they changed directors because the director, I think, of episode 1 to 4 left.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's a completely different director. Yeah, it was a completely different director for episode 5.
So for me, there was 3 jumps in quality. The first one was episode 1 to episode 2, because the first episode looked pretty rough, actually. I thought the first episode was pretty rough.
It did.
And then the second one was that like 4 to 5, I think, jump, where like it suddenly everything looked a lot nicer and there's a lot more like fluid animation and stuff.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense because like episode 2 was like half of the length, so you had a lot less to work on. So I can see why, especially like for an OVA where like it's not on that same time crunch of having to get it out each week. They have probably the same amount of time to work on both. Episode 2, it was just less work, so you could put more detail into it.
Yeah. And then the third jump was episode 7 to episode 8. I noticed 8 just looked different for some reason. And like better. I actually liked it better.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 8 looked like a genuine like TV anime. You know? Like it looked good.
Which makes sense because it's newer and it was also like
the last few would have come out like early 90s, right? I think it ran 87 to 91 or something.
91, I think, yeah.
So good year. It's the year I was born. Visually it really ran the gambit. But I mean, of course, it's cyberpunk, so you got to talk about the mech designs and stuff like that. Which
there's
pretty cool.
There's 2.
I like them.
There's 2 I feel like you should really talk about. I feel like you need to talk about the boomers, which by the way is hilarious that they're called boomers.
Okay, I wanted to bring that up. I love the fact that they're called boomers.
Boomers are the like synthetic androids that have been created to help out humanity and then didn't go right. But anyway, what did you guys think about the boomer designs?
I like the boomer designs. Sometimes they were very like complicated, like lots of like pipes and wires and stuff. Like it was very it was very like mechanical.
Very like vintage robot mechanical or
Yeah.
mechanics kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think, Mike?
I liked them too. I liked the like combat boomers that kept popping up where they looked. I don't know how. And then I really liked when they'd like the boomer's face would like rip through the pretend human face on top of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like all of a sudden this big robot face would just rip through a human face. It's like, oh no, they're a boomer.
How did they fit in them?
I don't
know.
know.
The boomers are huge, and then they're just like in these like normal human bodies.
Yeah. This show is very 80s in the fact that like it clearly didn't care about. That doesn't make sense. It was just like, but it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. And we're all on cocaine. So
yeah.
Exactly. I was just gonna say there was a lot of influence on these in this show, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Mike, you were probably gonna go into like the suit designs, the suit designs.
Yeah, for the girls.
I liked them. I liked that they were all distinct. And not necessarily, what's the word? Where it's the same on both sides.
Symmetrical?
Symmetrical, thank you. Yeah, they weren't exactly symmetrical. Like, one arm would be, like, kind of kitted out, and then the other arm would just be, like, a regular arm. I like when mechs do that.
It kind of plays to the world building, right? Like maybe they didn't have enough funding to be able to build like a perfectly symmetrical robot, or because of the time or something. Like things like that, it just like adds to the world and to the lore behind how these things are made.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought they looked cool too. The only thing that I thought looked not amazing, I would have maybe changed them a little bit, was the helmets. I didn't love the helmets particularly. I don't know what exactly I didn't like about them, but it was just like not the best thing. I don't know. Again, I don't know what I would change, but just something about them didn't hit for me.
I like, and is this a spoiler? There's 2 suit designs, and the later suit design I think is an upgrade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like they were just cooler looking later on in the show than they were.
I think part of that is
the
just
start.
budget too. Like the budget kind of got better, so they kind of looked better.
Yeah.
The one other thing I wanted to say looked really cool was all of like the bike and car like chase scenes in this looked great.
Yeah.
The bike is up there with like Akira's bike for being like awesome.
I was comparing it to Akira's bike the whole way through, and like I saw like parallels. It looked very similar even.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're saying
knowing
this
what
show
I know
probably,
now about this, it's
it's probably just Akira's bike.
It's
an homage. Yeah.
What was I gonna say? We keep saying Akira's bike, but I guess Kaneda's bike. But yeah, no, that was a cool bike, and I like the sounds of the bike and all that stuff were all really good. And like everything, it did a bunch of things really well. This show, like there was quite a bit to like.
The cars were cool.
Yeah,
it was. I liked it. Like it was definitely just solid cyberpunk.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That cop's car, or that car that they keep chasing, was pretty cool too. Yeah. All the designs. Cyberpunk has cool designs.
That one, like, are you talking about that one from episode 4, Mike?
Probably. Yeah.
Probably.
Where like they're like, I kept drawing parallels to the
spoilers.
Okay.
We don't want to get too deep into plots, but yeah, I think we all know what we're all talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. We'll talk about that after the spoiler warning.
Okay.
Just keep that in your mind, Jay.
Yeah.
Write that down.
Yes, write that down. Write that down right now. Yeah, I mean,
I'll remember it. Don't worry.
Just great. Like
I'll never forget.
With this cyberpunk stuff, like part of what's important is like just the city too. Like everything was great.
One thing that's kind of surprised me was that the city, when I came into this, you said it was like a cyberpunk story. And I was surprised how not super dark and grim the city was for a cyberpunk story.
Yeah,
I thought it was kind of just felt like future Tokyo. Like it felt like a realistic future Tokyo, or like a future city.
It was cyberpunk more in the sense that like thematically it was cyberpunk-ish. So like it was a lot of like corporate, like big corporations run everything.
I think
that's
like
kind of
the thing is as well, like the further you go back in time, you'll notice like a different outlook on how the future will be.
That's a good point too.
Like back then they probably thought like, oh, the future's going to be bright. It's going to be great. It's going to be like this utopia. Nowadays, you look at the future. Oh, we're going to be wiped out.
Hey,
right?
LOL, what future?
Yeah, what future?
Yeah, okay.
True.
Let's do just spoiler-free thoughts before
And, like,
before the
recommending
the break.
it to people.
Yeah, and who you would recommend it to, like similar properties. Yeah. I'll start.
I think you're the target audience here, so yeah.
Yeah, Cole is
listen
the
to
target
Cole.
audience.
Listen to Cole.
Yeah, I really liked it. I will say the plot is definitely I wouldn't say hard to follow. I do like that it doesn't hold your hand necessarily through the plot. Like, it doesn't, like, if something big happens, it kind of just expects you to know, like, to keep up.
It's
yourself.
the kind of show that makes, like, a person like me with a bad memory, and I'm not very good at paying attention to things. It makes me feel dumb sometimes watching shows like this.
But it also has a tendency of just like, this character knows this character, and you're like, what? Why?
Oh,
how?
what? Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Or there's
That
a lot
happens
of like,
a lot. Yeah.
how did that character know to be there at exactly that time? There's a lot of
Yeah,
that going on.
There's a lot of that
very-
going
I
on.
think it's
but-
I think it's a lot of 80s jank as well.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
They didn't care
yeah,
about stuff like
again,
that back then.
No, because they were just they were
this
helping
looks so
themselves.
cool. Let's get it on film.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I had a really good time with it. Who'd I'd recommend it to, honestly? Of course, Cyberpunk fans, but specifically RoboCop is my recommendation that I would say on this one. It's got that same, not necessarily like oppressive cyberpunk, but oppressive in the sense that it's major corporations kind of running everything, and that's what I would say. And even from like a design point of view, it was very RoboCop-y.
I think the thing with like that and RoboCop are like, it's almost realistic in it. It's more realistic than the, like, everything is crap, the world, everyone's like horribly off and stuff like that. Cause like, it's still going to look pretty boring in a little bit when this future inevitably happens. But like, you'll still have like you'll still have Amazon running the world, designing all these mechs for everybody. And then you'll still have like
all these boomers
going, all these AIs going around killing people, you know, like, it's realistic cyberpunk, I guess.
I just realized when millennials become the oldest generation, are the AIs just going to be called boomers because they've been like ragged on for years?
Yes. This show is predicting the future.
It's an accurate prediction is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Mike, spoiler-free thoughts, recommendations.
So my spoiler-free thoughts, if you guys kind of predicted it, I thought the first 3 episodes where there was a kind of a more thorough plot line through it, because like we I don't know if we've explicitly said that this is fairly episodic and maybe even a little out of order, the storytelling.
I was kind of confused on like what the order was when I was watching episode 2. Like, is this an
really
origin or like?
Yeah. So I thought the first 3 episodes started pretty strong, and I was kind of like, okay, it's not my favorite yet, and then at the midpoint it definitely dragged for me at times, and I was kind of not loving it. And I think probably the best episode for me was the last episode. It did finish kind of strong, as I think Cole predicted, I would say. I definitely my favorite episode was definitely that last episode, I would say. Yeah. But who I would recommend it to? Man, I just recommend it to Cole and people like Cole, I guess. I don't know. Or if you love just like vintage anime and you just love retro stuff, you're gonna like it. It doesn't do anything too offensive. Its worst crime is just being a little confusing and boring at times.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did have a point going back to the designs of the hard suits. I like how this is a very weird thing, but I like how they were put on. Like that they were
how they were suiting up
and how they hang on these
and they like
kind of
put it and
they like fold it up over top of themselves. It was just a cool little detail. Yeah.
I like that too. No, it's not weird at all, Cole. I like it too.
it kind of goes back to what I was saying about it being kind of realistic in a sense. Like it's sort of everything in this kind of made sense, but at the same time it was also like ridiculous.
Like you think of like Iron Man, you know, like the first Iron Man movie where all of the parts just like slide on top of him.
Or like Iron Man 2 where like he takes the briefcase and then he puts it at his chest.
Yeah, and it's like, well, okay, that looks cool, but like there's also something cool about like if this existed, this is how you would get in. You'd step into it. It's all like they're just putting on like they're firefighters putting on their gear, you know? I don't know, it's just something cool about it.
Like in episode 8 there where one of the characters has to they're like not expecting there to be something happening, and then all of a sudden something is happening, and one of her friends is like, "Oh, I brought your suit," and then she's like, "Oh, great!" And then she puts it on, and I don't know, it's like a whole thing. It's cool.
It's like a process,
yeah. Jay, what are your thoughts?
I'm a bit of a mixed bag on this show because, like, on the one hand, like I did enjoy some bits, but on the other hand, like when this show was slow, it was like very slow, and I was finding myself like very bored. And at those points, if I were to just watch it for the sake of just entertainment, I would drop it. On the same vein, I'm not the biggest sci-fi and cyberpunk fan. Yeah. So like that probably has a lot to do with it. Yeah. And if you're not into that kind of thing, you might get the same reaction. Right. But anyway, Mike, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna ask you because I actually kind of had the same thought as I was watching it. As man, I wish I could drop this. What episode did you think that at?
So I was thinking that around episode 3, episode 4 I enjoyed, and then episode 5 I was kind of back in the same like eh.
I would say probably episode 5, midway through, I was kind of like thinking to myself, if I didn't have to watch this for the podcast, I probably wouldn't continue.
Yeah,
and then I'm glad I did.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Like I said, favorite episode came up.
Yeah.
So yeah. Who would you recommend it to, Jake?
I'd recommend it to people who like vintage anime. Anyone who likes like that sci-fi, cyberpunk kind of thing. And I was thinking about this too. And this might be a little bit out of left field, but even like people who like magical girl kind of thing, might enjoy it.
It's a good take.
Not like you're not gonna get the like shoujo, like ultra shoujo aspect from it, but like if you like girls like getting things done, you're gonna like this.
Yeah. It is. That's the other aspect, of course. Yeah, it's just we've got 4 badass girls doing stuff.
I feel like it's that's a good take, Jake, because I do like shows where you have like capable women kicking ass, and that's kind of what this show is. Yeah, and honestly, that's when it was strongest for me. And then where it was weakest is when it kind of tried to go more into like the other stuff that was going on. I was kind of like, I just want to watch these cool babes,
cool girls
kicking butt,
kick some ass. Yeah,
that's what I want to watch.
Kick butt, take names, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I also, I don't want to get too deep into these weeds. I also like that them kicking ass and stuff like that wasn't at the expense of like male characters as well. Like everybody was capable in it, and it was it was truly an equal opportunity show, and I liked that.
I like that too.
Yeah, lots of maybe this is getting into spoiler territory, but there was quite a bit of like Yuri bait going on too. Like I really heavy. Yeah. This is almost borderline a Yuri show, I would say.
I would say it's right there. So I think that's a good point to maybe say spoiler warning here.